I submitted it to Gene Hackman, and Gene I'd known for many years, but we'd never worked together. And he was in a mood at that time. He says, "I don't want to do any more violent pictures. I'm tired of it. I've been involved with a lot of them." He says,
For decades, Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman stood as two of Hollywood's most commanding forces, their careers forever linked by raw talent and uncompromising grit. Now, at 94, Eastwood is finally speaking out about Hackman's passing, confirming what many had long suspected. From their intense on-screen rivalries to a friendship that ran deeper than most realized, Eastwood's words offer a rare glimpse into the truth behind their bond. What did he reveal? The answer might just change the way you see their legendary connection. Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman's first encounter. Before we delve into what Clint Eastwood has finally confirmed about Gene Hackman's death, let's take a step back to where it all began, the moment their paths first crossed and the undeniable friction that followed. Eastwood and Hackman first appeared on the same set in 1971. The Beguiled, a Southern Gothic drama set during the Civil War, brought them together, but their contrasting styles were evident from the start. Eastwood played John McBurney, a wounded Union soldier taken in by a group of Southern women at a boarding school. Hackman had a minor role as a soldier, but even with limited screen time, tension simmered behind the scenes. Eastwood was already shaping his image as Hollywood's quiet, rugged, tough guy, a former TV cowboy. He knew how to command a scene with minimal dialogue, relying on his steely gaze and stoic presence. His approach was simple: strip away excess and let the action do the talking. Hackman, on the other hand, thrived on depth and emotion. He was known for immersing himself into his characters, dissecting their psychology, and infusing every scene with complexity. His performances were layered, his expressions deliberate, and his presence undeniably intense. This clashing technique didn't go unnoticed. Eastwood found Hackman's style overly calculated, while Hackman saw Eastwood's stripped-down approach as too simplistic. They were two powerful forces, each with a different philosophy on acting, and neither was willing to bend. Their paths to Hollywood weren't easy. Eastwood's journey began in California, where he moved frequently with his family. A passion for music led him toward performance. But it was his role as Rowdy Yates in Rawhide that gave him his first taste of recognition. Playing the rugged cowboy for years trained him to say more with less, a skill that became the foundation of his acting career. Hackman's rise was different. Born in San Bernardino, California, he didn't have the luxury of an early break. He bounced between odd jobs, working as a clerk, a messenger, anything to get by, before deciding to pursue acting. Training at the Pasadena Playhouse, he took whatever small roles came his way until the French Connection propelled him into stardom. His intense, unfiltered performances made him a go-to actor for complex, deeply flawed characters, where Eastwood's characters spoke in measured tones and let their actions tell the story. Hackman's characters felt everything. He was raw, expressive, and unafraid to show emotional vulnerability. It was this fundamental difference that caused friction on the set of The Beguiled. Eastwood, a man of few words, stuck to the script, while Hackman pushed for deeper emotional layers, questioning motivations and adding nuance where Eastwood preferred silence. This wasn't just about acting styles, it was about two men who had fought their way to the top through sheer determination. They weren't handed success, they had to claw their way through Hollywood's relentless industry. Both had military backgrounds, Eastwood in the Army, Hackman in the Marine Corps, which shaped their discipline and resilience. They were men who valued hard work, who didn't indulge in the vanity of stardom, and who treated acting like a craft rather than a spectacle. Despite their differences, a mutual respect existed. They may not have always agreed, but they recognized in each other something rare, an authenticity, a refusal to compromise their artistic integrity. Their paths continued to cross over the years, sometimes as collaborators, sometimes as indirect competitors, each measuring their performances against the other. Hollywood was changing in the late 60s and 70s. The polished, picture-perfect heroes of old were fading, making room for something grittier, more real. Eastwood and Hackman weren't just a part of this transformation, they led it. Eastwood's silent gunslingers and Hackman's morally complex lawmen redefined what it meant to be a leading man. Their performances were raw, flawed, and, most importantly, human. They weren't the kind of actors who played into Hollywood's glitzy scene. You wouldn't find them at endless red carpet events or engaging in empty publicity stunts. Their friendship wasn't about public displays of camaraderie. It was quieter, built on shared experiences and professional admiration. Their friendship wasn't about public displays of camaraderie. It was quieter, built on shared experiences and professional admiration. They didn't need to say much to understand each other. It was an unspoken acknowledgement that they had walked the same path, fought the same battles, and earned their place among the greats. Their rivalry wasn't one of animosity, but of silent challenge, each pushing the other to new heights. While Eastwood was shaping the Western genre with his legendary man-with-no-name persona, Hackman was dominating crime dramas and thrillers. When one ruled the box office, the other wasn't far behind with an award-winning performance. They weren't just actors, they were benchmarks for one another, constant reminders of the level of excellence needed to stay at the top. Over time, their paths would intertwine in ways neither could have predicted, culminating in a collaboration that would redefine both their careers and cement their legacies in Hollywood forever. But while their early years were marked by silent competition and creative clashes, what Eastwood has now confirmed about Hackman's final years casts their entire relationship in a new light. Stay with us as we reveal that aspect in a moment. How Eastwood and Hackman navigated fame. As their careers flourished, Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman found themselves taking distinct routes in Hollywood. While both were celebrated actors, Eastwood wasn't content with just being in front of the camera. By the late 1970s, he took control of his creative direction, stepping into the roles of director and producer. His first directorial venture, Play Misty for Me, was a bold move, followed by the action-packed Dirty Harry. This shift marked the beginning of his transition from an on-screen icon to a filmmaker shaping stories from behind the lens. Throughout the 1980s, Eastwood's presence in Hollywood expanded beyond acting. He directed the outlaw Josie Wales, Unforgiven, and later Gran Torino, proving his ability to craft films with depth, complexity, and thought-provoking themes. His evolution into a filmmaker was not just an experiment, but a defining career move. Over the years, Eastwood became a master storyteller, earning Academy Awards for Million Dollar Baby and Unforgiven, solidifying his place as one of the industry's most respected directors. While Eastwood was exploring the world of directing, Hackman remained fully dedicated to acting. He embraced roles that showcased his versatility, from the intense and suspenseful The Conversation to the inspiring sports drama Hoosiers. His ability to immerse himself in diverse characters, whether as a hardened detective or an empathetic coach, earned him widespread recognition and multiple awards. The way they handled fame reflected their personalities. Eastwood was notoriously private, avoiding the limelight as much as possible. He preferred a life away from Hollywood's constant attention, allowing his work to speak for itself. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he never indulged in the traditional celebrity lifestyle, opting instead for quiet spaces and family time. Hackman, on the other hand, was more comfortable in the public eye. While he didn't actively seek out attention, he wasn't one to shy away from it either. He was known for being more outgoing and expressive, yet he never let fame dictate his career choices. Rather than chasing blockbuster paychecks, he consistently selected roles that intrigued and challenged him. His dedication to the craft made him one of Hollywood's most respected actors, known for delivering layered and emotionally charged performances. Though Eastwood was often seen as the bigger movie star, Hackman had a quiet resilience that made him just as compelling. Their approaches to success were different, yet both thrived in their way, leaving behind legacies that shaped the landscape of American cinema. But what drove Gene Hackman to leave Hollywood at his peak, vanishing without a grand farewell? Stay glued to your screen. Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman, a collision of talent and tension. As Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman's careers skyrocketed, their paths diverged in striking ways. Eastwood, never content with just being in front of the camera, took greater control over his projects, expanding into directing and producing by the late 1970s. His first major step behind the camera came with Play Misty for Me, followed closely by Dirty Harry, films that not only cemented his status as a Hollywood tough guy, but also signaled the beginning of his career as a filmmaker. By the 1980s, Eastwood was directing films that pushed beyond the typical action hero roles he was known for. Movies like The Outlaw, Josie Wales, Unforgiven, and Gran Torino showcased his ability to craft deeply layered characters and narratives. With Academy Awards for Unforgiven and Million Dollar Baby, Eastwood proved he was far more than just a leading man. He was a director of remarkable skill, earning critical acclaim for his vision and storytelling. Hackman, on the other hand, remained dedicated to acting. He continued to deliver compelling performances in films like The Conversation and Hoosiers, earning nominations and awards for his ability to portray complex, multi-dimensional characters. Whether playing a hardened detective or an inspiring coach, Hackman's presence was undeniable. Unlike Eastwood, who became more selective about his on-screen roles as he expanded into directing, Hackman thrived on embodying a wide range of personas, preferring to focus entirely on acting rather than stepping behind the camera. Their approach to fame was equally distinct. Eastwood, ever the private individual, shied away from the Hollywood spotlight, keeping his personal life out of the tabloids and maintaining an air of mystery. He let his work speak for itself, refusing to play into the spectacle of celebrity culture. This measured distance from the public eye contributed to his longevity in the industry, allowing him to transition seamlessly from an action star to a respected director. Hackman, though not one to court the media, was more open and engaging. He embraced the perks of fame, but never allowed it to overshadow his craft. While Eastwood built a brand of quiet intensity, Hackman brought a more expressive energy to his roles, immersing himself deeply in each character. He prioritized compelling scripts over big paychecks, choosing films that challenged him rather than those that simply capitalized on his star power. This made him an actor's actor, respected, versatile, and always fully committed to his craft. When Eastwood and Hackman came together for Unforgiven in 1992, their differences became even more apparent. Eastwood, both starring in and directing the film, envisioned a Western that broke away from traditional cowboy heroic. His character, William Money, was not a larger-than-life gunslinger, but a weary, flawed man dragged back into a world of violence. Hackman, playing the brutal and corrupt Sheriff Little Bill Daggett, brought a chilling realism to the role. Their on-screen conflict crackled with intensity, but behind the scenes, the tension was just as palpable. Eastwood's directing style was famously no-nonsense. He believed in efficiency, avoiding excessive takes and trusting actors to deliver natural performances without over-rehearsing. His philosophy was straightforward: let the scene unfold organically and keep the momentum going. Hackman, however, had a more meticulous approach. He delved into his characters, analyzing every line, every movement, every motivation. While Eastwood was known for his quiet authority, Hackman was more vocal, unafraid to challenge decisions if he felt a scene could be improved. This fundamental difference in style created friction between them. On the set of Unforgiven, their personalities clashed. Hackman's tendency to push for more depth sometimes met resistance from Eastwood, who preferred a leaner, more instinctive performance. There were moments where Hackman wanted to explore a scene further, only for Eastwood to call cut and move on. Hackman found this frustrating, while Eastwood saw it as a necessary discipline to maintain the film's tone. One particular incident illustrated their opposing approaches. During a critical scene, Hackman began to improvise, shifting the emotional weight of the moment in a way that deviated from the script. Eastwood, known for his controlled directing style, immediately stopped the take. He calmly but firmly insisted that the line be delivered as written. For Hackman, who was used to having creative freedom, this felt restrictive. He was accustomed to directors who encouraged experimentation, and Eastwood's rigid adherence to the script was an adjustment. Despite these moments of discord, there was an underlying respect between them. Both had spent decades earning their place in Hollywood. Eastwood had solidified his legacy as both an actor and a director, while Hackman had collected Academy Awards and built a reputation as one of the most dynamic actors of his generation. They understood each other's brilliance, even if their working styles occasionally put them at odds. Adding to the tension was the fact that Eastwood, by the time of Unforgiven, was an established director, while Hackman remained solely an actor. This shift in hierarchy meant that Hackman, who had always been a force on set, was now working under a director who was also a major movie star. Eastwood was in control, setting the pace, dictating the vision. Hackman, unaccustomed to being reined in, sometimes struggle with this dynamic. Their age difference, though slight, also played a role in their interactions. Eastwood in his early 60s had already transitioned into a directorial career, while Hackman in his late 50s was still perfecting his craft as an actor. Eastwood had spent years shaping his legacy from behind the camera, while Hackman was focused on delivering unforgettable performances. Their different perspectives shaped the way they approached Unforgiven, creating an underlying tension that simmered beneath the surface of their collaboration. For all their differences, Unforgiven remains a testament to both men's immense talent. Their friction, instead of weakening the film, added to its intensity, making the conflict between their characters even more compelling. Eastwood's restrained direction and Hackman's explosive performance created a perfect storm, resulting in a film that won multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Eastwood. Though they may not have always seen eye to eye, the undeniable power of their collaboration left an indelible mark on cinema. Two giants of Hollywood, each unwavering in their approach, came together to create a film that still stands as one of the greatest westerns ever made. But what did Eastwood reveal about Hackman's final years that changes everything we thought we knew? Stay glued to your screen. Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman, A Tale of Two Legacies. For decades, Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman were two of Hollywood's most formidable forces, parallel giants who, despite their differences, helped shape the industry. But while Eastwood pressed forward, refusing to slow down, Hackman made a decision that stunned fans and colleagues alike. He walked away. Hackman's retirement was not a spectacle. There was no grand farewell, no emotional send-off. One moment, he was one of Hollywood's most revered actors. The next, he was gone. By the late 1990s, after films like The French Connection, The Conversation, and Unforgiven had cemented his legacy, he quietly stepped away. He had nothing left to prove, and more importantly, he had other passions: writing, painting, and simply living a life free from the spotlight. Unlike so many who struggled with fading relevance, Hackman chose to exit on his own terms. Eastwood, however, could never imagine such a departure. Retirement was never in his vocabulary. While Hackman embraced a life away from the industry, Eastwood pushed forward with an almost relentless drive. He wasn't just acting, he was directing, producing, and redefining his craft. Films like $1 Million Baby, Gran Torino, and American Sniper weren't just projects. They were proof that his storytelling abilities were sharper than ever. At an age where most would have long since stepped aside, Eastwood remained one of Hollywood's most respected figures. The two men, once frequent collaborators, drifted apart, not because of any dramatic fallout, but because life had taken them in different directions. Years passed without them working together, without them even acknowledging each other publicly. For fans, the silence was deafening. Was there an unspoken tension? Had their friendship faded, or was it simply the natural course of things? When Hackman's passing was announced, those questions became even more poignant. Eastwood, a man known for his stoic nature, felt the weight of the loss. It wasn't just about losing a former co-star. It was about losing one of the last remaining actors from their era, a generation that had built Hollywood not through spectacle, but through sheer talent and presence. In a rare public statement, Eastwood didn't hold back his admiration. He called Hackman one of the greatest actors of all time, a man whose every performance elevated the material. Whether playing a ruthless sheriff or a complex anti-hero, Hackman didn't just act, he transformed. And for Eastwood, Unforgiven wasn't just another film. It was a testament to their shared artistry. That movie in many ways was their final word on the genre they had both helped shape. But Eastwood also reflected on the man behind the roles. Hackman, despite his towering presence on screen, had never been one to seek the spotlight. He didn't chase fame, didn't indulge in Hollywood's excesses. He did the work, then he walked away. It was something Eastwood deeply respected, perhaps even envied. Their last conversations had been ones of reflection, two men looking back on an industry they had helped mold, an industry that had changed beyond recognition. With Hackman gone, Eastwood found himself looking around and realizing how few remained. The Hollywood of their time, the one built on grit, raw talent, and an unrelenting commitment to storytelling, was fading. The industry moved forward as it always does, but some legacies don't diminish. Hackman's presence would never be erased. As long as people continued to watch Unforgiven, The French Connection, and every other masterpiece he touched, he would always be there, gritty, unforgettable, and as real as they come. For Eastwood, it wasn't just the loss of a friend. It was the closing of a chapter in Hollywood's history. But legends don't disappear. They live on in their work, in the stories they left behind. And Gene Hackman's story, his talent, his dedication, his quiet yet commanding force, would endure for generations. But what do you think Eastwood truly meant when he reflected on Hackman's legacy? Was it admiration, nostalgia, or something deeper? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.